I'm going to invite Cai Felip from Union Avatars. Here we have Cai, and then we have Daniel Sanches as well, a Web3 artist. And we're going to talk about embracing social change from consumers to virtual personas. We have two very special people. Cai from Barcelona has an avatar and virtual or digital identity company that has been working now for several years, and it's really groundbreaking solutions, but making it really simple and then of bringing people into the virtual platforms. They almost have almost 100,000 users with a total of 800,000 avatars built so far. And then we have Daniel Sanches, and Daniel Sanches has three purposes. One is the most wonderful person, but is our artist of the official GM Eindhoven poster. So congratulations, fantastic work on designing that poster. Thank you very much. And he's also a very active member of the 6529 ecosystem, which is a decentralized Web3 communities, working on social credibility, social status on-chain, and how we can bring, and that's part of the conversation today, so how we can bring the virtual personas and how the collective communities can actually trust profiles where you don't know the person behind. How do we bring that social credibility and social status into a decentralized community? So welcome and thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you.
My pleasure.
So Cai, first of all, tell us a little bit about Union Avatars and your journey so far.
Yeah, just to give a brief introduction, what we do. Basically, what we have is an avatar system to generate 3D avatars coming from 2D selfie pictures. We do a process of 3D reconstruction using some machine learning and computer vision, so we are able to take this picture in 2D and then create either a 3D realistic avatar or a more cartoonish, let's say, more gaming oriented. And we serve it basically to developers who are creating 3D virtual worlds or video games. But our goal or our vision behind it is that you should be able to have one unique identity that then it can be projected in different ways based on the platform that you are accessing or the usage that you want to give it. Just like in real life, you don't dress the same based on the place you go. We understand that in virtual worlds, you should be able to also represent yourself in a different way. Like what we were talking before, maybe you prefer to interact with a bank and have a realistic avatar with certain data added to it, let's say your real name, your ID card, and maybe your account number. But then if I'm playing a video game, I prefer to have a nickname, a cartoonish avatar, and the level of, I don't know, attack and defense that I have on my character. So that's a little bit the vision behind it. So we say that it's an avatar company, but at the end of the day, we are building an ecosystem for identity management on 3D virtual spaces.
Excellent, thank you. Daniel, first of all, as a digital artist, how do you think virtual personas will impact that sense of identity and self-expression in the digital world?
The way I've seen it impact me, which is how I prefer to express, is everyone, whether we want to admit it or not, we all have something hidden. We all have something that sometimes we're afraid to show or afraid to say or afraid to demonstrate, good or bad. Virtual personas actually enable us to do that, right? Sometimes we might call it hiding. In my case, and I've seen in case of many other people, it's actually been a mechanism to express, a mechanism to be able to participate, a mechanism to play a bit the infinite game, as you were talking.
Yeah. Excellent, excellent. And but you are also an artist, and but you're also a member of a very active decentralized community. When we talk about decentralized communities, could you give an overview of what does that mean versus a traditional community building based on a particular brand or?
So the way I see it, and I like to use metaphors a lot. I use it in my images. I use it in a lot of what I write, right? So traditional communities is like walking on the street. You're walking on the street, you see everyone pass by, and you're shouting and trying to get heard. Some people might hear you, some people might not hear you. If you look nice, people will look, people will talk, people will engage. Decentralized is like choosing where you step into. You like the bar, you like how it looks, you like the color, you like what they're serving. You get in, and you meet people who most of the times have a common alignment, right? And everyone has taken the decision to go in, right? So everyone has taken their own choice and has not necessarily been pulled into.
That's a very interesting point, because finding people with shared alignment, with shared views on particular areas of life is what really makes these Web3 communities way more meaningful from a perspective, because you do have access that you didn't have before. But there is also a lot of bad apples around the space, and Cai had us the the privacy and the digital, in digital identity can have an influence on a positive influence on the ability of actually bringing the best of yourself, because there's a lot of introvert people. There's a lot of people that they're limited sometimes by their own either physique or social environment, and that's a way of liberating, unleashing their talent. But there's also a way of other more, I would say, the bad apples trying to use that privacy as a level of abusing other more vulnerable victims. How do you tackle this privacy issue?
I mean, for me, I totally agree in what you and Daniel said about I think this communities allows you to present maybe more open, to present yourself a little bit more open and try to find connections with people that maybe is not physically around you, but in a distant space, but then you can connect with them because you share the same interest. When it comes to privacy, to be honest, I'm always a hardcore privacy defender. So I think privacy is super important. When you say about this, let's say, abusing of the privacy and everything, I always say that for me, that's not a technological problem. I think it's more about the society and the morals and everything. I don't think the fact that you have privacy allows you to, let's say, do bullying to other people or these kind of offenses. I think it's more related to the society than the privacy or the anonymity that you can have. I think it's interesting to keep certain level of privacy and being able to own your data and display or disclose only what you want to do. And again, that's where I think identity management have a big role, no? In the sense, just to compare it to what we use in blockchain with private and public keys, I think everybody should be able to have one private identity that is filled with all our personal data, but we are the owners of it. And then you should be able to create different profiles, selecting specific data that you want to share in each one of these profiles. So maybe in one profile you have a fully public profile with a lot of data related to you that you display to people, but then in other communities you are using just some part of this data to create a more private identity, no? So
fully understand, and it is a complicated issue. And in fact, Daniel, could you explain how the power of the community is it can become a tool for providing trust on chain of while maintaining the privacy of the users?
Yes. So I'll give an example. I think that's the best way to go, right? And so if you look at my profile on the site, it calls out me, Maxi. If you look at me at LinkedIn, it calls out as me, Maxi. It's not a job. Yes, I think that's the first thing to know.
Not a joke,
right?
Definitely not a joke.
I don't create memes, but I collect a lot of them. Now, why do I collect the memes? They're part of this ecosystem, as Pedro was saying before, of what 6529 has been creating with one clear mission, and it's the mission of onboarding 100 million people into the open metaverse. So part of what we talked in the morning, part of what we talked just before. Why do I hold the memes? Why do I buy them? These are NFTs. So why do I invest? Why do I hold them? I hold them because for each day that I hold a meme, there's a mechanism that actually accounts for it. This mechanism empowers the people within the community, we're around 10,000 now, to actually provide a service to the community. What do I mean by service? Today, there are two mechanisms behind it. One is, we call it CIC. So that's the part of identification. It's not necessarily identifying that I am Daniel Sanches and I live here and do this for a job, but I'm able to distribute that to prove that the person is who they say they are, according to what they've decided to expose. So a bit like a private entity. From a social point of view, like you were mentioning before, there are good and there are bad apples, right? So there's another element, there's another mechanism that comes into this that allows the community, so the distributed community, to also award people with what we call reputation, right? And this can be a community builder, it can be a meme artist, it can be simply a good person. But it also allows to penalize those who might be trying to game the system. And so, like any community or like any movement, everything started with a community or a set of people, right? And that's what we're trying to curate as we go through time. It's a series of experiments, but the fact that you're able to have this mechanism to distribute or withdraw allows us also to curate in the sense of the mission, curate to allow the positivity and the growth of the system to actually continue.
And this, while it may sound slightly complicated, it is an essential factor for Web3 and blockchain-based privacy to be successful, because we've already seen it in Web2. We've seen it with brands then sponsoring or associating their brand to a particular influencer on Instagram or any other social media platform. Then, when that person has done, got fined for being for drink and driving, for example, then a lot of their sponsorship they had to be cancelled, etc. But as we have more and more VTubers or virtual influencers or this virtual persona, how can brands effectively engage, or bring these virtual personas into their marketing in a successful way? And if you could provide some examples, Cai, on how you've been transitioning or using these avatars as part of the brand engagement with the communities.
Well, I think more and more we see all this, especially with AI, I would say, all these AI models or AI characters that can be driven by a company behind it. We have seen, for example, now in Spain, we have one TV presenter that is fully generated by AI and is telling the news. There is also some virtual influencers like Lil Miquela or other pretty known influencers who work with different brands. I think that's good for brands because they can manage a little bit more their message without the risks, as you were saying, of a regular human being, let's say. And then at the end of the day, you also can give, let's say, sort of a human display to the interactions that the users have with your company or with your platform, using avatars or virtual personas in a way of a chatbot or something like this. But I think for now we have been seeing more in the marketing part of it on creating these brands. But I think it's interesting, and there are, especially in our specific field, or use cases related to my company, we have seen a lot of traction when it comes to fashion, to the fashion industry, because they are able to create one specific model that they can use over the time. They can build a narrative or a character behind it, and then at the same time they are able to be honest, to save a lot of costs when it comes to photo shoots, paying rights to different models to use on either on the website or presenting the different models. Because they can do everything digitally with the use of AI, adding it to the avatars or to the characters.
Okay, so we're seeing on one side, how we can help in terms of the marketing and brand positioning towards these more kind of gamified social goals, but there is also these collectives working on making a social impact or positive social impact in a digital ecosystem. What's in your community, Daniel? what are the drivers? What are we fighting for? Because we're saying, okay, we have the digital persona, the digital identity, all of that. That to me is almost like transitioning towards digital rights of protecting our digital personas. How is that? How is that covered as part of the community goals?
I think there are two elements to it, right? One of them is, and it's a common theme across the elements. One of them is purely what we talk about freedom, whether it is the freedom to transact element of working in a decentralized or working with a decentralized ecosystem, which doesn't depend or doesn't have any authority. But I think the other element is about the freedom to be, the freedom to express, right? The freedom to onboard, right? To bring in the old, the young, into what we believe is actually going to be the future as we've seen it moving.
And this is paramount importance, because the freedom to be, the freedom to become whoever you want to be, see how hard it has been to make this transition for LGBT, for race equality, and so on. And now we do have the tools at our disposal to try to make this almost irrelevant, to take it beyond that. It's not just about the religious belief or the sexual orientation. It is anything that you want, as far as it's respectful with the others, to have that freedom. And unleashing that, I think, is what we're, why we're pushing the sector forward. So. Final question from the audience as well, as we know that we are quite late. But one thing, I understand the logic behind exposing different aspects of you in different settings, but also think that it's not to allow people to hide behind fake identities, like trolls. How can we accommodate both? What would be your share of this?
Well, this is a personal point of view, but I think there will be always trolls, let's say, either if there are tools to cover it or not. I see a problem in faking the identity of another person, because it can drive to scams or whatever, or impersonating a person. I think that's the biggest issue. Then we should have some authentication ways to demonstrate that you are really who you are supposed to be, and to, in a way, do this security check. But at the same time, I think we have to be confident that anonymity and privacy is something important in this world. It depends on the country where you live. It depends on a lot of things too. But I think this privacy sometimes allow you to maybe speak things that, if you do it publicly, it can be dangerous, let's say. So I think we need to find a balance between both. I don't have the perfect solution for that.
You're absolutely right, and we do need to find a balance. And relating to another question, that if we provide the tools to validate the social credibility of our private users, that may be one of the tools that on the issues that we'll face in terms of employment regulation on the EU, etc. How do we enable people to remain private on a professional environment? One of the things that we've seen, for example, some of the most expert smart contract people, that they look into they audit the smart contract for security. They're all undoxed. They're all, let's say, we don't know who they are behind, and that's part of their self-defense. But if you are a company doing a smart contract, you better get it audited by one of these profiles. How do we bring that into the more regulatory part?
I think from a regulatory point of view, I'm more of the opinion that the regulation should actually be curated by the communities, right? So the power of blockchain, the power of having closed communities, whether they're driven by NFTs or by a specific token, actually empowers the communities to keep hidden what they want to keep hidden or exposed, for good or for bad. Companies should, and I believe will not, be able to overcome those barriers themselves. And as long as we have that freedom to individually have the ability to keep that behind that specific blockchain or community, and deciding what we want to share, right? I think regulatory is really a minimal element from it.
Absolutely. We have no more time today to continue talking, but there are two follow-ups from here. One, Cai, he has a demo where you can actually create your avatar, within 30 seconds, and then use it for a number of purposes. So do go and try this. And please do follow Daniel. There is very deep thoughts in the whole community. Look at then at the 6529 decentralized community that we're all part of. The views on the open metaverse. There are some of the most interesting Twitter threads about talking about how the freedom to transact becomes the most important constitutional freedom we can have, that everything else is depending on this. So I do make a call to everyone that, okay, we're not just talking business, we are talking about our future. Protecting our digital rights will become as important as protecting our human rights. So we're here because we believe we have small chance to still make a difference for our digital society, and we need to think beyond enterprise. We need to think about our next generation, our kids. How can we create a better future for them? Yeah. So thank you so much. Thank you, everyone, and please continue the conversations in the break, because now we have an amazing co-presentation that I'm so looking forward to seeing. That I can't wait. Thank you again.
Thank you.